Hello, everybody. I hope I'm actually live this time. Last week, I went live on my other channel, Philosophical Psychology, and it didn't let me do it live, so I had to um, record it and then upload it, and it was late. It was like 4 hours late because it took a while to upload, and I didn't, because I do everything in 4K because I figure if I'm gonna do it right, and do it in the highest available quality. So the live streams don't let me go higher than 720p, but yeah, I did 4K 60 frames per second, and it took a long time to upload because it was a huge file, and it always does that. But normally, I have more time to schedule it. I upload it, and then I make sure that it's going to be done and scheduled and ready by the time it's supposed to premiere. But in this case, I recorded it after it was supposed to premiere. So I was really late because I didn't know I was going to have to pre-record a live stream last week. I thought that it would just let me go live, but it was really giving me a hard time. I have no idea why. Never figured it out. Still doesn't make sense to me. But whatever it is, seems to be fixed now because here I am. But maybe the problem is on my other channel. Maybe I won't find out till Sunday on my other channel. So for those who don't know, I do live streams every Sunday at Philosophical Psychology, link in the description to that channel. And I do live streams every Friday on this channel. They're part of two different series that I have. This one's called Fallen World, and the other one's called Just Between Us. Fallen World is a more focused and educational show where I cover different topics and just let you know what I've learned about them and share my thoughts. And Just Between Us is a more laid back discussion where I can just sort of, it's like a stream of consciousness about a maybe like political topic or, something trendy. So today I wanted to talk about inflation because that's what was on my mind. And I realized that I had a lot more to say about it than I thought I did. And I want to start by um, telling you what inflation is. Inflation is when products become more expensive because supposedly there's not enough supply to meet the demand. So they have to raise the prices in order to give themselves more time and money to make the product. Because when you raise the prices, you're going to be making more money, but there may also be less people buying the product, which, gives you more time to make more of it, I would assume. So in theory, I understand that. um, but there is a fine line between inflation and price gouging. And I feel like that line has become so blurred that people don't even know if there is a difference at all. I think that in general, screwing someone out of a deal or overcharging someone, what is the word I'm looking for? There was a term I used earlier today, I can't remember. It wasn't a word, it was a term, it was like a, phrase. Ripped off. There it is. Ripping someone off. That is not something that you really ever want to do. So let me explain my idea about how we could handle this problem. As far as I'm aware, Kamala Harris said something along the lines of, she wants to make it illegal to, overcharge people for their groceries and just basic survival needs, which I think shouldn't have upset anybody. That sounds like a great thing. But let's be realistic here. We have a society, right, filled with rich people. And there are so many people who can't afford anything. And this goes all around the world. You know, there are so many different cultures and societies and what is the word I'm looking for? Nations, um, where they have different policies in place and leaders with different ideas of how things should be done. But the goal in any society should always be to keep everything going, to keep everything prosperous, and to keep everybody happy, to make sure that everybody feels like their personal freedom and autonomy is being respected. Because you never want to live in a society where other people are telling you what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to feel, where you're supposed to go. Um, and I think back in the day, when we had a lack of technology, a lack of resources, a lack of skills and powers, it made sense that we had to be working all the time because in order to just survive, you needed to be capable of finding food, water, like animals in nature. You know, it's pretty similar to that. Animals have to fight to survive every day, but they're not fighting with each other. You know, they're not arguing about which policies are the best. They're not arguing about how best to be taken care of. They're focused on taking care of themselves. They're just doing one thing at a time. I just want to get some food for myself or for my babies, you know, whatever it may be, whatever the situation. That's what animals do. And in nature, there isn't a ton of thought going into it. They're just following instinct. They're just doing what they're doing. We, on the other hand, overthink everything and we make ourselves susceptible to dishonesty, disinformation, brainwashing, conditioning, dogma, all sorts of this bullshit. And the problem, ooh, my left ear just started ringing. That's enough. Come on now. Okay, it stopped. Ooh, okay. So, sorry, I keep adjusting my glasses. Every time I talk, I feel like they're going a little bit further down my nose, and I want them to stay up on my face where they belong, not down. So, yeah, anyway, I, I see humans getting lied to and manipulated all the time, and the problem with this is that they're not using their critical thinking skills. They're not saying, but can't we be creative? Can't we think outside the box? Can't we question things, challenge things, see if there's a different way to do it? In nature, there's no risk there because you're only taking care of yourself. There's really no risk when it comes to thinking outside the box, being creative. If you were a lion and you just decided to do something no one's ever done before, you wouldn't be thinking about whether or not anyone had done it before. You would just get the idea and you'd do it. And that would be all there is to it. So and that's the thing. Humans don't do that. Humans question everything. Humans overthink it. Like, oh, I don't know about that. And not only do they not take risks and think outside the box, some of them aren't even creative enough to do that. And that's okay. Not everyone has to be that creative. You have something that you can do. You have something that you can offer to the world, something to contribute to, and you can still live your life in a way that is satisfactory to you. However, there are people who are extremely creative and who think outside the box, and those people should be the voice of the future, you know, the voice of how we move forward because they're finding the new ways to do things. They're being creative. And ideally, those would be the people with the power who are heard the most, listened to the most, trusted the most. But instead, those are the people who are shunned and shut out and treated as a problem. They're treated as a threat to what's already working. But if you're using your head, using your eyes, it's clear to see that this is not working. What we currently have in the world in general, not just in the US, everywhere, it's not working. Because no matter where you go, there's going to be some type of issue. You may find a perfect nation and you're going to be like, yeah, but then there's that. You know what I mean? I'm just hearing some shouting from upstairs. Um, and that's the problem. It doesn't matter where you go, there's going to be something wrong. And I think one of the most fascinating examples of a country that brags about being free is the US, because it doesn't really have very much to show for it. And the most stunning irony of all is the people who yap about freedom the most, the people who want to talk all day long about free speech and their rights are being taken away and they're being forced to do this, that, and the other, and they complain about all of this stuff, is that these are the people who are actively trying to take rights and freedom away from pretty much everyone, even themselves sometimes, which makes no sense. There are women fighting against women's rights and reproductive rights. They're basically telling you that they don't want to have the authority to decide what to do with their own body. There are all sorts of people who are complaining that they don't have enough freedom and saying, but also somehow saying that they live in the best country in the world, it's a free country. And then when they see other people exercise that freedom, they try to take it away. It is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't understand how severe the cognitive dissonance going on in these people's heads must be. I can't even wrap my head around it. These people are not thinking. Most people, to be fair, are not very bright, but this is a special breed. Um, and luckily, most of them, they make themselves known very quickly, very easily. It doesn't take much. You don't have to listen to them talk for very long before you can figure out where they are mentally. It's almost like they've got a little stamp on their forehead saying, I'm one of those people. And sometimes they literally wear a hat on their head, MAGA. And what that again makes no sense. Make America great again? Isn't it already great? Isn't that what you're bragging about the whole time? These people make no sense. They contradict themselves in every breath they take. And it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I cannot figure it out, and I'm trying. And it just does not make sense. It doesn't add up. But anyway, I um where was I? Sorry, I was noticing it said somebody joined in and was watching, so I was curious who. If anybody's actually tuned in, let me know and drop a comment. Unless you're my stalker, in which case I've probably blocked all of the accounts you have that I know about. Um, for anyone who doesn't know, I have this weird, creepy guy who watches YouTube, watches a bunch of YouTubers with small channels who do live streams, um, primarily young men for some reason, and he just watches them and leaves creepy comments from his many different accounts and fake names. I don't know his real name, but he found me. I am one of the many people he watches, and I called him out for being creepy and being, inappropriate and having a million different fake accounts and lying about everything. So he doesn't like me anymore, and now he actively watches my live streams from his different accounts and leaves dislikes on them and tries to comment, but I've blocked him from commenting. So, you know, every time he left a comment from one of his many accounts, I put hide user from channel. And if a comment pops up and I suspect it's from him, right away I block it. And I don't have to suspect. I'm 100% sure it's him. He makes himself known very quickly, like the MAGA people, for example. And he is one of them, by the way. He's a Trump supporter, on top of being nuts. The just like perfect example of how crazy these people are. Um, they make themselves known. It takes no more than a couple seconds to figure out, you know, what type of person they are. And you just have to listen to them talk. Now, they could say the same thing about me and say that it's easy to hear what type of person I am by listening to me talk, but I don't take that as an insult because I think what I'm saying makes sense. I think it comes with logic, consistency, and empathy and compassion for other human beings, which again is logical, considering we share a planet with a bunch of other people, and if we make it seem like they don't matter, then why do we matter? Why do you matter if I don't? You know? So it's just completely illogical, and I can't pretend otherwise. And I kind of like that they have become so ostracized, and they've made themselves kind of like black sheep, and it's good because they are. People call them maggots, MAGATS. People try to insult them and call them weird and make stuff up about them. Well, not make stuff up, but like make up names for them. Unfortunately, there's too much true shit to even have a reason to lie about anything. But they love to lie about the left and make shit up about them. But anyway, uh, there's just I've heard people say, oh well, you can't do that because you don't want to like other them, and you don't want to make them seem like they're not human. You want to include them and reach out to them. I'm sorry, there's no reaching out to these people. They're gone, and they've done it to themselves. They know exactly what they're thinking. They know exactly who they are. They already see everybody else as other, and they did this to themselves. The best thing you can do for them is show them the reality of what they've chosen. There's no reason to reach out to them. All that's going to do is waste your time and energy because you're reaching your hand out to someone who intends to pull you down with them, not someone who's willing to be lifted up by your hand. So don't even look at them. They are othered, okay? That's what they've chosen. They've done that to themselves and they're fully aware of it. And they need to live with that or change it on their own, but we can't be helping them. There's nothing you can do. Um, and they're gonna die out. I really believe that. I don't think they're going to continue multiplying. I think that they're starting to die out. People are starting to realize that it's a cult and that it's completely insane. But let me get back on topic because I've completely derailed the conversation. I was talking about inflation. How does this connect to inflation? Well, it is these people that I've been yammering about who like to say that inflation is the worst thing that President Biden has done. And when Trump was president, there was no problem with inflation. And they like to, a lot of the things that Trump inherited from Obama, a lot of the stuff that was just already in place when Trump got into office, he likes to take credit for it. And then a lot of the stuff that Trump left Biden with, he likes to blame Biden for. So there's a lot of lying going on, a lot of misinformation, and the people who follow Trump are not politically educated in any sense of the word. They literally just believe anything the guy tells them. And everything that they hear, they're like, oh, I love this conspiracy theory. Trump's a racist. Trump's this, Trump's that. Well, you know what Trump is? This is not a theory. Trump is the type of person who says you can grab a woman by the pussy when you're a star, they'll let you do anything. And that was excused as locker room talk. Do you know what locker room talk is? It's the kind of disgusting, misogynistic shit men say to each other when they think no one's listening. That's what it is. It's not something to be proud of. It's certainly not something to excuse. It's disgusting, and it needs to be it needs to be called out as such. It shouldn't just be dismissed. And I'm really disappointed in the fact that that clip of him saying that came out before he was elected in 2016, and people still elected him. People still said, nah, that's fine. He was just talking to his friend. And that's what he was saying? What does that tell you about the type of person he is? He's a disgusting pig. He is absolutely like beyond human at this point. There's hardly a human being left behind him. It's somewhere buried deep down. A little child that was just led astray. But he's got to find that on his own. No one can do that for him, and no one can do that for his supporters. He is so dangerous and so mentally unstable and so creepy and weird. I mean, he just is so weird. Everything he does and says, I just find myself thinking, what in God's name? Like, and apparently he's trying to back out of the debate with Kamala Harris. What a chicken shit. Because he knows he's not gonna sound like a sane person talking to her. Someone who's actually capable of sounding sane. Someone who actually, as far as I can tell, has good ideas. Um, then there's him. He doesn't stand a chance. There's no way. I do not see him winning. The closer we get to November, the less supporters he has. He's losing supporters. There's empty spots at his rallies. You know, he's really, like, there's Republicans who won't even vote for him. And that is not something we were seeing in 2016. In 2016, we didn't know yet what it was going to be like having him as a president. And let's not forget, he lost the popular vote by millions. He only won because of the Electoral College. So if the people actually had a say in it, he never would have won in the first place. And the people definitely did not elect him in 2020. Despite what they want you to believe, people generally don't support him, and the people who do support him are seen as weirdos. Um, and they're around, but it's not that there's more of them. It's just that they're louder. Um, but there are also people who are neutral, who are undecided, who don't know how bad he is, or who don't really know how important it is that they vote in this election. And those are the people that I try to reach out to when I make videos like this, because I want them to know how important it is that they pay attention and that they don't just dismiss it and say, oh, well, you know, I don't really know who I'm voting for. I guess there's good things about Trump, there's good things about Kamala. People who try to be neutral. I've always said neutral people are just like closeted Republicans. Well, I haven't always said that, but you know, it's always been true. um, so it's basically the case, you know, they're closeted conservatives because they try to act like they're neutral, but these aren't issues you can be neutral on. You're either in favor of freedom and justice or you're not. There's no in between. There's no having it both ways. You either think it's okay to be a dictator or you don't. You think it's okay to treat people like subhuman and overcharge them and use them and exploit them, or you don't. I don't know how you can possibly try to say that that's something you can be neutral on. It's kind of like the war right now in Gaza with, you know, Israel and Palestine. What's happening is Israel trying to wipe out the Palestinians. And I often hear people try to be neutral about this and say both sides are wrong and, you know, all of this stuff. But you either support genocide or you don't. You either think Israel is doing what they should be doing or you don't. There's no reason to take a neutral stance unless you're trying to virtue signal and make it sound like you have some, you know, some cool take, like, oh, hey, I think we need to all get along. Well, no shit, but we're not. You know, that's the reality. People are trying to kill us. I think it's nice if we all get along, but can we acknowledge that there are people actively trying to kill us and we need to defend ourselves? Or are we just going to, you know, live in la la land until we get killed? You know, it's a virtue signal. It really is. And it's disappointing because, you know, who are you? What do I give a shit what you think or how you feel about an issue? That's less important than actually doing something about the issue and spreading awareness and information against misinformation and disinformation about the issues, because there is a lot of disinformation. There's people, you know, dis just means deliberate. Misinformation means, you know, it's just not true. Disinformation means it was intentionally put out to, um, you know, misinform people. So the difference between disinformation and misinformation is intention. Anyway, let's wrap up inflation. I think in general, what is being called inflation is just price gouging. True inflation is when you really have no choice but to raise the price on something because, you know, you literally cannot afford to sell it for a lower price. You can't afford to sell it because if you do, you'll be out of the product. You won't be able to keep buying the product. That is what inflation actually is. But the reality of the situation is that's not what we're dealing with right now. What we're dealing with is price gouging. And it has been that way for a long time because a lot of it is coming from companies who absolutely can afford to keep buying their products and keep distributing the products. And they're just overcharging people because they can, because it makes them richer, and why not? So what we see is they decrease the product, and then they charge you more for it. And I remember when I was working at a store that I would be putting price tags all the time, every week, higher and higher and higher. And then I'd be getting new items in the truck and I'd be putting them on the shelf, and I'm like, this has less in it. This is a big bottle of shampoo and this is a tiny bottle of shampoo, but it's got the same barcode, so it's the same item. And then the price is higher. So they're giving you less and charging you more. A perfect example of this, an astonishing example of this, is Tinder. When I first got Tinder, um, it was in March 2021. At the time, there were two subscriptions, Tinder Gold and Tinder Platinum. Tinder Gold was $14.99 a month, and Tinder Platinum was $19.99 a month. And Platinum was like the highest you could get. It lets you see everyone who likes you or swipes right on you. It gives you 5 super likes a day, where you can, make it more likely that someone will see you, and you can write a little message so that, instead you're just not taking as many chances. Um, you get like a boost every month or something. It was not an unreasonable price, but even then I thought, wow, $19.99 a month, that's higher. You know what it is now? Tinder Platinum today, $49.99 a month. It went from $20 to $50, and they give you less. Instead of getting 5 super likes a day, you get 5 super likes a week, if even. I don't know if they've even changed that since the last time I checked. The app has just completely gone downhill. There's nothing to gain from using it anymore. And this is what it's like. This is just what happens. A lot of apps, a lot of services. Netflix doesn't even charge that much. $50 for 1 month, that is obnoxious. And what they try to do, and I had this happen to me a couple times, they would offer me $24.99. There'd be a little thing that pops up, and they would say, for the next 30 minutes, we're giving you a special offer to get it for $24.99 a month. And I'm like, that seems like a scam. And sure enough, every couple weeks, that pops up, which means they do that so that you get it. That is their way. They show you this big, scary price, $49.99, and then they're like, but we'll give it to you for $29.99, only if you act now, you have 30 minutes. So that's their way of saying, you better get it now, because this is half the price just for this 1 month, so you better get it. And then if you cancel your subscription, they'll do it again. And then you'll keep getting it for $24.99 a month, which is still a ridiculous price. But when you're comparing it to $49.99, it seems cheaper. So there's all of this manipulative, dishonest shit going on where they're trying to get you to spend more money than you need to. You have no awareness of it. You're spending $25 a month, and you're being tricked into thinking that you're saving $25 a month. You see how that works? I once saw like a picture of like, I don't know if this was a real picture or if I made this up in my head as an example, but either way, it's a good example. Let's say that there's a package with a backpack and a notebook. And the notebook is $5. The backpack is $25. And they put it together and sell it for $30. And you're thinking, hey, $30 for a backpack and a notebook. That's fantastic. It's only $30 and I'm getting 2 things. But the reality of it is, you'd be paying the same price if you bought them separately. And, they're not going to tell you that. They're putting them together so that you're being tricked into thinking you're getting an extra thing with it. It's a backpack that comes with a notebook. But they threw the price of the notebook in there with it. And that's what they'll do in reality, That's just a hypothetical, but they will try to trick you into thinking that you're getting more than you are. And, they'll have like a special deal where it's like, oh, get this for $5. And then they'll be like, and do you want a side with that, or do you want an extra thing? And then they'll be like, and do you want cheese? And then the cheese is $2 whole. And then there's, like all of the shit that they try to sneak charge you. And always look at your receipt. When they tell you the total, always ask how it got to that. Always check before you get anything if it costs money, because they won't always tell you. They won't always tell you if it's going to cost extra. Just assume that you're being charged up the ass for every single thing that you get. My grandpa had to save his friend from, a situation where he was getting a car, and the guy tried to sell him something that could be sprayed on the seat, and he sprayed it on the seat. Like, he already did it. He sprayed it on the seat, and then said, and then tried to charge him for it. And my grandpa had to cut in and be like, "Hey, don't don't get that. Why would you get it? It's already there. What's he gonna do? Remove it? How's he gonna get it off? Like, he's charging you for something that he's already given you and he can't take back. That would be like, handing someone a glass of milk, watching them drink it, and then saying that'll be $5. It's like, well, I'm not paying for that. You didn't tell me it was gonna cost me $5 before you gave it to me. You didn't indicate that in any way." But that's not even what the guy was doing. The guy was trying to sell it and use putting it on the seat as like an example. But what my grandpa's friend didn't realize was that that actually was the thing. So this happens all the time, and it's insane how many ways you can be fucked over by these companies. I also find it really odd that the maggots try to claim that companies have a leftist agenda, a woke agenda. That has never tracked. That's never been true. The reality of it is, it's becoming popular because people are talking about it, because people are pushing for it, and people are starting to use their freaking heads and realizing these people exist. Minorities, people of color, LGBT community, women, all of this stuff. So these movements, like feminism and everything, they've become popular. And what happens when something gains popularity? It doesn't gain popularity because it's being pushed and promoted. It gains popularity because people talk about it, people figure stuff out, people think. And then what these companies try to do is play off of that and say, okay, how can we capitalize on this and appeal to these people? Because now we know this is our audience. Let's try to make something that'll appeal to this audience. So they do that. And I'm sure there are some people who do have opinions, political opinions, who work for these companies and at these companies. But for the most part, the companies themselves, they don't give a shit. They don't have a bias. They just want you to buy whatever they're selling. It's that simple. There's no Hollywood woke leftist agenda. All of that is bullshit. There's no Republican agenda either. The only agenda is capitalism. Money. How can we charge someone more than we should? How can we rip someone off and screw someone out of something that they could have had for much cheaper? And that is the question that they ask themselves, and that's what they do. And how do we keep them ignorant? How do we keep them willing to buy all of this bullshit? How do we do that? And the best way to accomplish that is to keep people uneducated and to make people think that they're supposed to be working constantly and not even liking their job, that it's normal to be unable to afford basic survival needs unless you're working like 70 hours a week between two jobs. They tried to, make it so that that full time was considered 40 hours a week. They've tried to give workers rights, but the reality of it is they'll just keep finding different ways then to fuck you over. If they fix one problem, it's like whack-a-mole. Boop. Now there's this. So they raise minimum wage, and what a surprise. Everything else becomes more expensive. They raise minimum wage some more. Everything else goes up some more. They try to give workers less hours. Suddenly, you're forced to get two jobs, because everything's still just as expensive and you need more money than what you're making. So no matter what you do, you are being screwed into a situation where you have no choice but to work. And that has never been what work was supposed to be for. Work is supposed to be for two things: something that fulfills you as a person, something that feels like something you're supposed to be doing with your life, with your day, with your energy and your time, and something that actually contributes to the world around you. And I could give you an example, like we all understand the purpose of doing laundry or doing the dishes or, cleaning your room or whatever you might do around the house, mowing the lawn. You know what I mean? Like these are things that we do when we don't get paid because we understand why it needs to get done. We see the difference it makes. And we're like, yeah, this isn't work. This is just part of life. And then the other stuff that you do during the day is supposed to be stuff that's more for you and to make you feel like you're doing what you're meant to be doing. And what we have in society today is people who've been tricked into mowing other people's lawns and, you know, thinking that they're getting paid when in reality they're being given literally the bare minimum. If you mow my lawn, I'll make sure you don't starve to death. How is that different from owning a slave at that point? That's basically the situation that we're in. And people think it's normal. People have been brainwashed into thinking that that's how things are supposed to be. Your work is not supposed to be understood. You don't need to understand the company you're working for or anything like that. All you need to do is show up at your job, do it like it matters even if you don't understand how it does. And maybe, back in the day, maybe people were more brainwashed into thinking their jobs mattered, but nowadays people just don't give a shit. People just want the money. And that's understandable because that's the situation we're in. But it's not the situation we should be in, and we should be always fighting against that. So, in conclusion, inflation, for the most part, is just price gouging. It should be illegal. What we should do instead is make it so that you cannot overcharge someone and rip someone off. Um, we just need to come up with a pricing system for things and enforce it by law. And if someone is breaking that and overcharging someone, you might think, oh, well, what about, how do they determine that? What about my privacy? Well, you've already got like the IRS and everybody up in your ass over privacy because of taxes. So you already hardly have any privacy. What are you even talking about? Um, and what about my right to sell something for however much I want? Isn't that the whole point of capitalism and being free? I'm sorry, you want to rip someone off? You want to take advantage of someone? You want to steal, basically? You want to sell someone a cookie for $70? I mean, do you really think that should be allowed? If there already are laws against price gouging, which I think there are, they just need to be stricter and more specific because what's happening right now should not be allowed. Um, there's got to be something that can be done about it, and I'm really tired of hearing people say, no, we want to be overcharged, but also somehow we don't, as long as it's Trump doing it. What do you people think Trump is going to do to fix the problems you're complaining about? Because you may think that inflation is only because Trump wasn't president. I promise you, it still would have happened if he had been elected. And you know what? Things would be a lot worse right now. And you people would not even believe it. You would just think, "Oh, well, Trump's doing the best he can." But that never would have happened because people did not want him in office, and people still don't. Um, I cannot even believe he got elected in 2016. The whole electoral college thing really needs to be reworked because millions of votes for Hillary over Trump, and somehow, he still won. How does that even work? That makes no sense. Um, yeah, anyway, I think it's going to be similar this year. I think Kamala's going to win by a lot. A lot. Um, and it's going to be an actual win. It's not going to be one of those, well, she won the popular vote. No, she's going to actually win. And Trump is just going to have a temper tantrum and claim that everything is rigged and try to fight it with every fiber of his being, and he's just going to make a complete, even bigger ass of himself than he already has. And all his supporters are just they're going to start committing crimes, and they're going to get arrested, and they're going to just be showing their true colors, even more so than they already are. That's what I predict come November and January, when he's actually left behind fully. So, yeah, and I don't think he's going to run in 2028. I don't think he's going to live that long, if I'm being honest. The next 4 years, he's going to be in jail. He's a criminal. He's a horrible, horrible person. He has done so many things that are completely illegal, and some things that aren't but should be illegal, and he will be held accountable, and he will die. I do not see him getting elected and being the president again, ever. And his supporters, like I said, they're just going to die out. But this country is so messed up. Its origins are so messed up. We have so much to make up for, but we're going to be here either way. The reality of it is, there's always going to be people living on this land. So the best thing that we can do is just try to restore it to what it should have been in the first place. And it's going to be a journey, and I understand if you don't want to be part of it, because if you want to go somewhere else, absolutely go ahead. I completely get it. Because for a while it might just look like a melting pot of Republicans, but I promise you, that's not what it's always going to be. Anyway, this was longer than I intended for it to be, and I went on a lot of tangents, and nobody commented the whole time. But it did say I had people tuned in, so maybe they were my stalker with his many accounts and realizing that he's blocked from commenting. And maybe I'll find a bunch of dislikes on this video. Who knows? So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will be going live on Sunday on my other channel, link in the description, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Sorry, just had a random thought. I'll see you on Sunday. Have a good night. I appreciate every like, comment, and subscription. Just, for anyone tuning in. And, I think that's all I have to say. I could use an official outro. That's kind of become my outro, is just not having one. I also don't have an intro. So, lots of awkward moments. But thank you.